Good morning.
You're live.
We're
You're
getting
live.
ready. Well, it's Christian fiction, but it covers a lot of different things. So, I mean, it was just more of just a spiritual.
They asked me if to my late wife's nursing scholarship.
Jim, we're live, Jim. Say hi.
Hi, welcome from the LA Times Festival of Books, ReadersMagnet.
Wow.
Great guy. I look forward to
Reason?
I hope so, because I have grandchildren and I want them to have a world.
I was thinking about, I'm 73, I'm at the end of mine. I originally planned to live to be 100.
One day at a time is all we got. Well, thank you for the books and yeah.
Yeah. I have a bit of a commute every day. I also write a bike, and I listen to stuff. I don't listen to stuff. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, that these comics there. And then, Okay. So, we're going to just stop by the beach and be on our way. When they're done, like 15 minutes before I was going to get there, exactly. Yeah. We're ready to start. You have an hour's ride ahead of you.
Yeah.
They're not in any order, so it's smaller. Such a joy.
You know, I don't write much, but when I'm around, writers, it's always inspiring. Like, come on, Maureen, do something. Like, I've never compiled anything, but I'm kind of poetic and stuff, and I love reading other people's fantastic stuff. So, see you.
Well,
what else? But again, if you see a live audience now, right, that they're also waiting, and there's also 2 million other books here waiting to be received, right? Yeah.
Okay.
What else? Water. You have water? Because we have a lot of water, you will need that. You will need water too. Do you need a chair?
water.
I filled up. If you have an extra chair, that's great. But if not, that's not a big deal. I can stand. Right? Is that a 5.6? Oh, thank you.
But this doesn't have a cushion.
Oh, that's just fine.
Well, yeah, I've got one, but I don't have a signed one of the Endeavor's Run. I should probably also get one for us.
sure she's not going to disappear.
So we're like you're gonna go really cool.
Free copy. Sign it for you.
So this one's about good and
The first American president to appear in
great name.
Oh, thank you.
Certainly makes you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm good.
Right.
Okay, now Abigail, I'm sorry. It's Gail?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's how I spelled it, and then I got to think.
Oh.
That's right. And Joanne.
I know, I'm like, boy.
Yes. I mean, what happened to the next week's stuff?
Yeah, left it in the closet. You did? It's a lousy day for golf.
We're in Salt Lake. So, yeah. Yeah, so. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay. Love it. Love the Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Are you signing later today?
I left my rhino.
Fiction novel, but it has, has some stuff that I've studied over the last week. It's got some facts in there. Salt Lake. It's north of Salt Lake.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to go from Philadelphia.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Here you go.
Yeah, I got to walk out. Yeah.
Oh, I get it, yeah.
And really? Yes. He turned 18 and first thing she did well, the thing is, her father.
For this
Hi, we're live.
Hello, hi. Welcome to the book festival.
We're live.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're gonna do a lounge now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You're one of our authors. Nice to meet you. I kind of lost my voice from yesterday, so if you want to do some talking, we're under.
Sure.
The museum, 10 o'clock. The UFC marching band. John said he can't go. Right? See the red sign? The famous marching band.
Yeah.
You're staying here. Yes. Okay. Fine. I won't push anymore.
Just be back.
But I gotta tell you why I'm going.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, go. Think I get back? All right, James. See you later. Awesome. Have a good day today.
Vanessa?
Yeah. So, my name is Brian.
I'm Georgine.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Georgine.
That's
I
Gerald.
know. I go
I
by.
think you like Jerry.
It's
Probably because of the way my mother spelled my name. I know it's Georgiane. Oh, yeah?
Oh, wow. Camera.
And then
We're live.
Just so I'm supposed to do my spiel.
Yeah. So.
Just there she is. Yeah, I mean, I saw it. Well, that was
Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's it.
Yeah, it was actually my sister's doll head. My dog tore it off. My dad took a picture of it in the backyard. And I thought, wow, that's, if you could see it, so like
You'll have this on fun book.
It's kind of a time capsule and a self-help book and a collective journey of what we all wear. Yes. The last woman on her? Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm excited. What's the title? What is it? Captive?
Yeah.
Gee, that's great. First book?
Yeah, first
Jerry.
That's a cool idea. You dreamed that one night?
I had it in my head like for
We're live.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very interested in that.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning, gentlemen. Right? And good morning. Good morning, world. So we are live and obviously alive here at the University of Southern California. And once again, day 2 and last day of the Festival of Storytellers. Festival of Books. Festival of Storytellers is another exciting book fair brought to you by ReadersMagnet. It's a virtual event. It's a shameless plug, but it's still ReadersMagnet. So Festival of Storytellers, this time Festival of Books in person. I have 3 beautiful ladies in front of me. Jerry, why don't you sit down so that we can, we can kick this off. But I welcome you to day 2 of this awesome event. Day 1 was action-packed, was filled with a lot of great talent, great authors, great stories that we actually have sharing to the world. And this day today is the last day. So for those folks that are watching us live, come on over. Entrance is free. We're booth 225, and you can find us right smack in this 34th Street, just right off the fountain. You will actually see us. You can't miss us. We're the people in red. I was going to say men in red, but obviously it's people in red. And we are here. We are here to have fun, to listen to more stories, to listen to more poems. Not just stories, right, but poems. And we make sure that everyone will be heard. So without further ado, I will introduce you to our first speaker, right? Our first speaker did his book signing yesterday. One of our most successful book signing events yesterday. In less than an hour and 30 minutes, we were able to provide the fairgoers with 100 books, right? And this was for free. This is Jerry's investment, but it's a worthy investment because we all know that his book has good content. His book turns negativity into positivity. His book describes what he does day in and day out. So without further ado, here is Jerry.
Hi everyone. I wrote this book when COVID hit. I used to be in the gas station business and then the hair salon business. Never loved either one of them, although I did very well in both. And when COVID hit, I was like everybody else, was laid off from my job. And I started doing videos on Facebook. And I've been doing them to this day. They're only about 2 minutes, so they're easy to listen to. I know people don't have much of an attention span anymore. My book is the same. I have a 116-page book with 43 chapters. I did that on purpose, so it's easier to read that way. I know people at night, they will read a book, and if they see the next chapter is 30, 40 pages, they can't read it. They put the book down, and they have to read it the next day or something like that. The name of my book is We're All Crazy, Get Used to It. All the books are gone because they, as John just said, they were all given out yesterday. But my book is called We're All Crazy, Get Used to It, and it's really, I wanted a catchy title, but my book is really about turning your negative beliefs into positive beliefs. It's very thin, it's not complicated. I touch upon just about every subject you can imagine, and you have a choice. We can think positively or we can think negatively. If you think positively, positive things will happen. If you think negatively, negative things will happen. It's really that simple. And I don't think anybody would dispute that. It's really true. So what I tried to do in my book is go through everything I could possibly think of. The other thing is, I always thought I was going to run out of ideas for my book, for my videos, I should say. I never run out of ideas. I have ideas through the end of May. I pull my calendar sheet the next day, I say what I have to say, and I speak, like I said, I speak about just about everything you could possibly imagine to turn your negative beliefs into positive. And that's what my book is all about. So, I hope everybody it's on Amazon. For the ones who did not get a copy yesterday, again, it's called We're All Crazy, Get Used to It. It's my real name, Gerald Stalnick. I go by Jerry, but it's Gerald Stalnick. So I wish you all the best of luck always, and hopefully I will hear from you. Thanks.
Our next speaker is from a broken beginning to a victorious end. Experienced trust issues, health scares, and heartbreaks. But his ego puffed up in so many ways because of his employment here as a boss until he was broken to submission, which humbled him. To talk more about I didn't see that coming, but he did. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Casado.
Good morning. Hope everybody is well. I'm definitely breathing. No complaints on my end. So my book, I didn't see that coming, but he did. It's an autobiography for the first 24 years of my life. And it was not easy. My journey came from a broken home, from a family that was just chaos. And there was a lot of jealousy. I have a twin sister. She was an actress on Sesame Street. So I had a lot of competition, if you will. Growing up in the Bronx, New York, wasn't easy. And as I'm living in a broken home, suddenly diabetes hit me. So I had that as an obstacle to deal with. Now I'm legally blind as a result of my diabetes. So I had to be broken down in order to be rebuilt again. And so you'll find through my book, there's a lot of roller coaster rides between employment history, again, me being a boss, my ego puffed up like no other. But God had to humble me in such a way that I had to look with my heart opposed to my eyes. And then that's when I found what I needed opposed to what I wanted. So I was actually legally blind before I lost my eyesight. Then I found hope, I found God, I found strength, and now I found my purpose. And here I am as an author, writing my book to inspire people. And I just hope that whatever information is retained, you can use it for yourself or pay it forward to somebody else who might be going through such an obstacle. But again, it's an inspiring book to see where I was, where I am, and where I'm going. Thank you.
Any questions?
One more thing. You can find my link at Amazon, on my Facebook, Stephen G. Casado, Casado. The link is also on my Instagram, LILROCK316, Little Rock 316. You can follow me, and if you have any questions personally, you can email me, write me, but I'm always available. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Our next speaker is from Tucson, Arizona, and her book is about a nurse that grew up both mentally and emotionally through healthcare. Georgine realized early and that sometimes things are not as they foreseen. As the years went by and her experience grew, she became more reliant on using her critical thinking. To talk more about With My Own Eyes, let's hear it from Georgine Privett.
So my name is Georgine Privett. I wrote this book starting out with my beginnings in healthcare. Like our previous speaker, I grew up in a broken home. I grew up in the system. And learning through healthcare, I learned what family was, what love was through taking care of patients. And so I grew up, and then COVID hit, and it made me very passionate advocate for patients. And it also opened my eyes to how healthcare has kind of become tainted and a maze for patients. So my goal with this book was not only to open eyes and hearts to what happened during COVID, but also to create healthcare that's transparent and easy for patients to navigate and understand so that we don't have the mistakes that we have in healthcare right now. So my book is available on Amazon. It's my first book. I'm very proud of it, and I'd appreciate anybody to read it and open some eyes and hearts. Thank you.
Can you cite a major issue or challenge that you faced during the COVID time that's in the book that probably would inspire a lot of people?
So I think the biggest challenge that I faced was I'm unvaccinated. And in healthcare, that is a very big, bad no-no. And I was also an advocate for the unvaccinated and for the vaccine injured.
And how can we find you and your book?
So my book is on Amazon. I don't.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Georgine Privett.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is a two-time Emmy nominated and is one of the premier hairstylists in the industry, a native Californian, and she's been working in the industry for over 25 years, including The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, an iconic feature film such as the Hunger Games franchise, Marvel's The Avengers, and Pirates of the Caribbean. To do some book reading of her book, Beneath the Mask, ladies and gentlemen, I present you Bryn Leach.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bryn Elizabeth Leach. Hi, everybody. I'm Bryn Elizabeth Leach, author of Beneath the Mask. In a nutshell, I wrote your story. That's what this book is. It's your time capsule. It's a self-help book. It is a history book. And it's a great visual that takes you on an optimistic journey through the entire year, not only through COVID, but through everything that we all went through. It touches the broken place inside and helps you to heal. And I'd like to start by reading something about Kobe Bryant that started our year. January 26th, 2020, Kobe. This is how the year began, with a tragedy in the sky, losing our most valuable player. Now we are here to say goodbye. On the court, he was fast and furious, blurry moves to make that shot. Kobe Bryant brought home the gold, but that fateful day, he was forced to stop. Purple and gold have been so important throughout 20 polarizing years. His was a very public life. Kobe satisfied all of his peers. His joy, everyone called him a girl dad, and I can see just why. Always there as a loving father by Gigi's side the day they died. His joy described as remarkable, loving every second of every game. Kobe dazzled all the fans in the world while sheer talent brought him to fame. He may have dodged a bullet as the pandemic was right behind. His beautiful soul is now soaring above a planet of a whole new kind. As we struggle here below him in a haunting and daunting time, remember his perseverance as our lives have stopped on a dime. And our hearts go out to Vanessa. May you find peace in your angels now. Heaven needed an example of good character, and Kobe could show them how. If Kobe were here, he'd be helping others. The kind heart in that man was enormous. And knowing that he believed in God is the comforting place that lies before us. Thank you. Sorry for the mistake. Would you like another? Okay. If you have any questions, please, I am here to answer your questions today. Sorry. I know if the can you stop the tape while I find it?
That's okay. I had a camera face
Well, okay. I'm just going to read. Push, pivot, and produce.
Where are you? Oh, okay.
Push, pivot, and produce. August 5th, 2020. It's time that we start talking, express our feelings from deep inside about what we are really going through while Corona continues to thrive. Personally, I feel out of control. My life as I knew it is gone. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. It feels like a song for a swan. We are all checking in with our mortality, wondering if this could be our last dance. It feels darker than it ever has before as we wait for another chance. And we hope Mother Nature doesn't find more fury and storm through more vulnerable places. We've already seen such signs of destruction expressed mostly on people's faces. As this goes on, so must we, but mental anguish comes with fatigue. We are all out of sorts without any direction. Some kind of hope is what we all need. So banding together and obeying the law, these are the first things that we'll do. Then we push, pivot, and produce until the pandemic is finally through. Thank you. You can find me on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I'm at brynleach.com, and please follow me on Facebook, also Bryn Leach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bryn. Maybe Bryn can do some more readings later. Yes. Our next speaker earned a bachelor's degree in English literature at UCR. Her book, Captive. When it's all said and done, I'm still standing. There's only one woman left tonight. One that learns to be human again on a man-made body-trapped island. Would you survive if this was you? Ladies and gentlemen, I present you the author of the book, Captive, Vanessa Mayorga.
Hi everybody, thanks for having me. My name is Vanessa. I'm the author of Captive. This is a young adult novel, science fiction about the only woman left on Earth who is forced to be on a man-made island. And this island is completely booby-trapped. It's watched by people that control the island, and she has no idea how she got there, why she's there in the first place. She finds out that she eventually is being watched and she's under control by the elder commanders on the island. And she meets some stranded individuals from another country who show her how to be human again, because she literally has to relive her thoughts and her actions as a person. And that's pretty much what that book is about. I hope you enjoy reading it. Thank you.
Yay! Where can we find you?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Thank you.
Maybe Vanessa can share with us a highlight in the book, something that would, a cliffhanger, something that would interest our readers.
I can share a quote with me. So one of the quotes that I wrote is, "Be careful of those who laugh with you because they can secretly hate you." So, be careful of those who laugh with you because they can secretly hate you. All right. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Once again, a round of applause, please. Our next speaker is no stranger to Reader's Magnet. She was one of the most inspiring speakers we had yesterday during day one. And we can't wait to hear once more about her book. It's a self-titled Natalia Salinas. It's her story of recovery and her personal insights. Having mental illness is not something that she's proud of, but she has worked hard to no longer feel ashamed about it. To tell us more about her experience, her story, and how she can inspire the world, ladies and gentlemen, Natalia Salinas.
So today I decided to read a different little snippet of the book. So by February 2009, my husband's father died, and everything became exponentially worse. I had previously decided that I did not want any more children, despite him begging me to have more. However, after the death of his father, I had my IUD that was keeping me from becoming pregnant removed. I didn't tell him, as I thought the surprise would relieve his pain. It did not relieve his pain, and instead his sarcasm turned into physical violence. The first time this happened, I was about 5 months pregnant. I was furious but helpless. This man, who had never been in a physical fight in his whole life and who had allowed himself to be punched and to rescue a female coworker, was now hitting me. I tried to defend myself, but he was so much stronger than me physically. I had called various family members and of his family members, asking them to talk to him, but I did not feel supported. I talked to my parents about the hitting and and my renewed thoughts of wanting to divorce him. My mother convinced me that this was not the answer and that I needed to manage my anger and give in and let him be the man of the house. I tried as best I could to do this, and in the process, disliked the person I was becoming. I cursed and threatened to call the police, but in the end would not follow through. However, I tried to hurt him in other ways. Once I tore a picture of him and his father, the picture used at his father's funeral. He let go of all restraint and he picked me up by my neck and tossed me across the living room. As I again threatened to call the police, he pulled the phone jack from the wall. I sat on the couch with the disconnected phone in my hand and my daughter by my side. I don't know how long we remained this way, but eventually he walked away and my anger subsided. I felt weak and helpless, but also glad that I had been able to hurt him by tearing the photo. By the end of this year, prior to delivery of our fourth child, I took some pills to sleep and got into the bathtub with a knife. I had thought I would force a miscarriage, fall asleep, and bleed to death. I managed to take the pills, drink some wine to intensify the action of the sleeping pills, and stick the knife inside. However, as I continued to go inside, I finally did feel a prick. This woke me from my trance-like state, and I remember that my oldest boy had a doctor's appointment I needed to get him to. My two boys were 4 and 2 years old, and the thought of them finding me dead in the bathtub suddenly terrified me. I immediately got up and prepared to take my boys to his appointment. Take my boy to his appointment. While at the doctor's appointment, I passed out. So this was, again, one of a series of suicide attempts that I had in my lifetime. In the cover of my book, I put my picture because you wouldn't know from looking at me that I have serious mental illness and everything that I've gone through. And I hope that someday we could destigmatize mental illness, that people don't have these terrible views of people with mental illness, because we're not terrible people. We really are doing the very best that we can. And my ultimate hope is that someday we'll have recovery groups and think of mental illness as a process of recovery rather than something where you recovered. Now, in Bill Wilson, in putting together the 12 steps, initially he used the word recovered. But before his death, he rethought that word because a lot of the people that he founded the group with eventually died of their disease. And I think it's very similar with mental illness is I just wanted to be cured. I was looking for a cure. I was thinking this is going to fix me, that's going to fix me. But now the way that I think of my recovery and is, okay, this is what's going to happen to me if I don't maintain, if I don't manage my symptoms. I don't have the luxury of having a 3-day weekend where I'm just going to lounge around and sleep and or stay up all night or doing things that keep me well. And I have to think of, the whole biopsychosocial. I'm a psychotherapist, and I think about all these things of what I have to do to keep myself well, daily, weekly, monthly, for my 4 children. Thank you. The book is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble. It's also, if you go right around here, it's there, and you could scan the QR code. Today, I also brought some cards where you could, with that QR code, if you want to go ahead and find it. On the back of this card, I'm giving a 50% discount for whoever wants to buy it, so it'll only be a few dollars.
I have a question. So for Natalia, being a psychotherapist, is there any story from any of your students or clients that you can relate to and you're able to transform the life of that person?
I can constantly relate to the pain people go through when they're at that point, when they're feeling so low that they feel helpless and feeling like they want to attempt suicide. I found mindfulness when I was in my 30s, and I do meditation with people in sessions. I teach them coping skills, etc., develop safety plans for them, because obviously at that point they're not doing their best thinking. So I am very passionate about my job. I'm very passionate about being an advocate for people with mental illness. I do that on the side as well through NAMI, the National Association for Mentally Ill, and I've given recently, I gave a talk with them. So anything that I could do for this community is just inspiring to me.
Thank you so much. Once again, Natalia Salinas. Our next speaker is going to read us some poems today. She's going to use her poems in a holistic approach to help others find way to learn day by day with each others to guide transformation and learn how to go further to keep going of the journey. She earned her AA degree in literature and language from the City College of Sacramento. Her book, Culminating Experience, Personal Theory, Open Feelings Toward Choosing Your Dreams. It's a view about society, very diverse, complex, and constantly changing. And to tell us more about her inspiration, let's hear it from the author, Maria Alice Silva Amy. A round of applause.
Good weekend. Okay, since we are kind of close, since we are approaching Mother's Day,
I'll hold it.
okay. Since it's coming Mother's Day, like next month, and I just want to say Happy Mother's Day, and I have a poem here called Maria Evolution. A woman born in the world of magic, to which she gave wisdom, showing your philosophy, created the letters that form and bring poetry. Women are born with perfection, bringing dedication, they invite the ground and win with perfection. Born and discovering the pressure for seduction, the joy for giving and writing to nature to form of poetry. The reward turned and was born as a muse of fantasy. Imagine who was born, you, who come into our world to smile and say, don't be afraid of the reward. Born you, full of poetry, woman. They are all special, they are spotlights, they are stars constantly living, who believing that we could fly, believing we could sign, live and love, give passes to the earth rotates, giving life, sweet poetry, the word form our garden. Together women grow and make it very clear that there is no creation, there is no evolution, there is no emotion if there are no women. Be slow. Would this be lights, nights, or like a hug? It could be the lily for the earth morning, the sleeping shadow of the tired nights. They are clarinets, play and violas, joining and dream and life, voice, fly. They are going to be self off in the backyard, in the mirror and key, kills, and the dreamy and the moon, and the light, many dreamy, and I cry. Thank you. I'm going to talk about a little bit on my book. This is one of the poetry book. I have been writing for a couple years since I arrived here in the U.S. I'm from Brazil, and it was a challenge to put my words in a different language, but I think I did it. I'm very proud of it. The second one is about my experience on being in a university. I did my master's degree, and it was a little bit challenge to find out the resource the university affords and is there for us, and be able to show in this book then the student have to do the research and ask for help and everything is there. Sometimes they hide from you, but you have to be aware that's there. And this book kind of help the student and kind of everyone wanna try to succeed and find a career and believe in themselves.
Thank you so much, Maria Silva. Perhaps later you can do some more palm readings for us, just like Bryn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving forward to our next speaker, her book, Delighting in Dad, Memories of a Boomer's Dream to Finish Well. It's a book about a memoir of her dream to make her retirement years count. And interestingly, she'll be talking about Dad this time, who happens to be God. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of the book, Delighting in Dad, Micheline Peace. A round of applause.
Good to be here with you today to share my story. It's called Delighting in Dad. And let me give you a little background. I became a Christian when I was in my 20s, and I married at 25, and I thought everything was going to be perfect. After all, my husband was a Christian psychologist, and I had become a Christian, and God was number one, and everything was going to be perfect. But it didn't work out that way. Our marriage struggled, and then in 1990 we divorced. When I divorced, my pastor told me that God would never use me or bless me again. I was raising 4 children and just was waiting until the youngest one graduated from high school, and then I wanted to take my own life. Before he graduated, I had the opportunity to talk to a young man whose mother had just died, and she said that she had done everything she'd wanted to do in her life. So I thought that night about the things that I wanted to do in my life. And I made goals. I made fun goals, educational goals, financial goals, and spiritual goals. The spiritual one, I wanted to go overseas and be a missionary overseas. But, God would never use me or bless me again. So that was my challenge to God. During those next 10 years, I saw God work through all of my goals. And I told him when we started that he had carte blanche. He could say yes, no, maybe, whatever. And he did all of those things. Some things happened. Some things were no. Some things were wait. But I did end up building my own home. And that contributed to my financial goals, so that when I retired in 2004, I was free to do whatever I felt God wanted me to do. So I said, God, where do you want me? And 4 times in one day, he led me to be teaching children of missionaries over in the Uyghur part of China. So this is where my story begins. When I got to China, I found out that you could not email back home with words like Jesus or God or anything that was spiritual. And so I decided to, and I let everybody know, that all my emails would be signed with Dad. And also, I had a life verse, and it's Psalm 37:4. It says, "Delight thyself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." So I signed all of my letters delighting in Dad, and that's where the title comes from. This is a story of my adventures. It's a compilation of all of my emails home for the next 10 years. And it's got funny stories, sad stories. It's got things that God did that I thought were extraordinary. And it just is, it's compiled to be an encouragement for people who think that they've retired and the end of their life has come. That's not true. God still has wonderful things for our lives. And this is to be an encouragement for people who think that God can't use them anymore. I did not want to sit around and play golf or watch TV. I wanted my life to count. And this is all the stories of what God did. I'm going to read one funny thing to you. There's a story that winds through the parts of the book that has to do with my tooth. When I retired, I decided to have a cap that was on my front right tooth replaced. Well, apparently the glue wasn't strong enough. I got to China, and 1 month in, my tooth, while I was eating bread, cracked and fell out. So I went to the local Uyghur dentist, and they're not trained. What they do is just pull a tooth. And
or they cap it with gold. And the more gold you have in the mouth, the more it says that your husband has provided for you very, very well. I didn't want a gold tooth. So I went to the local Uyghur dentist, and we call him a dentist. And there were about 10 trainees that were being trained by the boss dentist, who'd never had any training in dentistry. And I showed them my tooth, and they took it. And they were handling it and just amazed at that something like that could be made, could be around. So when the boss dentist came back, I went to the chair. He had white Elmer's glue on the round table right next to the dentist's chair. And he took my tooth. He didn't wash it off. It'd been handled by all of the trainees. And he scooped up the white glue and stuck it into my mouth. And he charged me $3. And he said that I could come back anytime it fell off and he wouldn't charge me any more to put that tooth back on. Let me read a little tiny story about what I did because that tooth fell out so often. I'd visited the dentist many times. Finally, I found another source for some super glue since my local American and British friends did not want me to use theirs. One night after dinner, I carefully placed some glue in the half tooth on my hand and stuck it into the other half of the cap in my clean, dry mouth. I sat with my mouth open, watching a movie. Finally, I closed my mouth, and within half an hour, the tooth had fallen out again. After almost swallowing the tooth before going to bed, I laid it on my nightstand. In the morning, while trying to eat with it in my mouth, I almost ate it. So it stayed in my pocket until I got to school, where I promptly decided to super glue again. This time, I put the glue directly on my tooth that was in my mouth. Unfortunately, my head was tilted and a whole lot of glue came out and ran across my 3 front teeth. I quickly tilted my head the other way and shoved the broken tooth into the broken part of my tooth back into my mouth. Now my gums had super glue on them. My fingers were glued to the tooth. My 3 front teeth were totally glued together, and my lip was laced with glue. Just to put all of your minds at ease, it all came off, but so did the broken cap. Needless to say, the broken piece stayed in my pocket for the rest of the day. So these are some of the little stories that are in this book. It's written by date, so all of the stories are fairly short. You can read it at night, 2 or 3 of them, and put it on your bedside and pick it up again. I have one friend who reads it as a devotional because there are many things that talk about the way that God worked things out during those 10 years overseas. You can get my book on Amazon. Again, it's called Delighting in Dad. Thank you for my time together here with you.
Do you have questions for Micheline? And once again, this is Micheline Peace. Our next speaker, his pen name is Joseph Menard, and grew up in a little suburb of Columbus, Ohio. He loves writing and telling stories, entertaining readers, and becoming a reader. Life is a story to be appreciated. By looking at the book cover itself, this is a very interesting book to tell us more about the tale of the young witch. Ladies and gentlemen, the author, Diane Testis. A round of applause, please.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty shy, so I will try to do my best. So with this book, it's an epic fantasy. It did take me quite a while to write this. I'm gonna just read the back of the book. blurb so you can get an idea what the book is about. When the age of witchcraft and sorcery died out, the world moved on, and most people believed they would never see its magical influence ever again. But it wasn't so. The past has the uncanny habit of reinventing itself in the present, and the magic surrounding witchcraft cannot be easily undone. Now, in 1901, 450 years after the perceived death of witchcraft, an unsuspecting teenager, Amelia Twigg, is about to discover that not only does magic and witchcraft still exist, but it has in her a vessel in which to manifest itself. When a floating broom in her cellar makes it clear that magic is still around, Amelia is initially skeptical. But when it becomes apparent that she is indeed a witch, with powers that she could scarcely believe, she is hesitant to use them, fearful of the consequences in the future. All that, however, is quickly put aside when she becomes the target of a secretive cabal who are intent on unlocking the secrets of witchcraft for their own uses once more. Now, relentlessly hunted by this group, Amelia must find a way to stay one step ahead as she comes to terms with her abilities. But can she evade them long enough to learn how to use her powers she has been granted? Or will they find her before the magic inside her can truly become effective? That's the back of my book. That's the back of my book. It's with this book, it is a fantasy, but how I wrote it, I try to make it as real as possible, like in terms of how I believe the book should be read. Would it be okay? Go ahead. Would it be okay if I read like this? Yeah. Part 1, Chapter 1. A broom floated upright just by itself. Inside the darkest cellar filled with cobwebs and dreary shadows, Amelia Twigg seemed not to notice. Instead, she grabbed the broom and began sweeping, convincing herself that the floor needed a good cleaning before she could do any other task. Upstairs, a rusty door opened. Startled, Amelia dropped the broom. "Who's up there?" She raised her voice over the clanking sound of the nearby iron-riveted boiler. Then she thought, "I didn't invite anyone to come down here." Someone had opened the door, and now, standing in the stairway, he watched her. It was Jack B. Milton, whose father was the best baker in town. He was 19, 1 year older than Amelia almost to the day. "Jack, why are you here?" Amelia would have looked much better if her long brunette hair, not unkempt, had been washed and the coal dust hadn't soiled her pale skin. No doubt this girl in a brown pioneer skirt, white jacquard button shirt with roll-up sleeves and vintage boots was working class. "Did you not hear me knocking?" Jack asked. He came down the stairs wearing a newsboy cap with long suspenders, now curiously exposed over his brown vest, and hitched up his trousers. "I got tired of waiting for someone to open the door, so I invited myself in." "That's not the point. You're not supposed to be down here," Amir said. "My father will be back soon. If he finds you down here..." Jack couldn't believe it. "For goodness sake, calm down. Your father won't know. As soon as we hear him, I'll be gone in a flash. Okay." This did nothing to lighten Amir's anger. "Jack, You've been told a dozen times not to visit without permission. Stop obeying the rules. Amir's temper simmered more and more. Animated spark of life stirred. Colorful energy jolted through the air. The old broomstick rattled by a greater invisible force. Then up, up and away, it began floating effortlessly from the ground. Although Jack was witnessing something incredible, he said plainly, Amir, your broom is floating. He blinked just once, then twice, and his deep brown eyes became fixated on the magical incident. Amir looked furious. Amir still looked furious, and yet he didn't observe Jack's look of disbelief during the moment. You need to leave. Wait, what did he say before? Don't you see a broom? Just look. Jack grabbed Amir's shoulders to spin her around. Amir gasped aloud, her eyes popping out. The same broomstick floated through the unbroken magic that was smooth, gorgeous, and free. Then she wordlessly watched. But magic cannot. But magic shouldn't occur at all. The kingdom of Demetria has not seen the devil's witchcraft during the last 450 years, especially not in the year 1901. Jack went to Amir's right side. Wow, this thing somehow got possessed by magic. You don't really see much of this every day. Well, there must be a reasonable explanation for this, other than concluding that this is just witchcraft. However, Amir's eyes glanced towards the freely floating broomstick, which defied all other logical explanations except for one. It was witchcraft.
Thank you so much. Can you explain to us your favorite part in the book?
So my favorite part in the book is just having her experience the journey. She's basically doing an adventure all across the kingdom, all throughout the book. It's a long adventure where she not only flees her town, she visits other towns in the book, seeing other different geographic locations, whether urban environment and the wilderness. It's truly a journey all throughout my book, and that's one of my favorite parts of my book.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. David Kestis. Where can we find you and your book?
My book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Oh, favorite website?
Do you have a website?
Oh,
not yet.
Goodreads.
Goodreads.
I'm
Okay.
available on Goodreads.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is David Justice. Our next speaker currently lives in Laguna Woods, California, and she moved from Pennsylvania in December of 2014. She worked as a trainer, program specialist, program manager, and direct care worker for a nonprofit agency. To talk to us about echoes of loneliness, let's hear it from the author herself, Diane Andrew.
Hello. I'm not going to try and get up on this chair because I'm just too short. My book is called Echoes of Loneliness, and it is a real story. It is about my life. I was abandoned when I was 3 years old, along with my 3 other brothers. And the back of my book says, "In the darkness of the storm, there are shadows, and in the shadows, I am there. Beyond the pigtails and shy smile, there is a little girl who has endured things beyond her precious few years. Abandoned and unloved, she yearns for a gentle touch, a warm smile, open and welcome arms." From early childhood to and through her adolescence, author, myself, Diane Andrew, weathered the deafening storm alone, her mother gone, her brothers ripped from her life. She was tossed about as a ship on a tumultuous sea, looking for someone to protect her from the savage winds of an unkind world. As she recounts her tumultuous childhood, listen to the echoes of loneliness ringing through her words, see the dark clouds of sadness etched in her face, and catch the glimmering ray of hope sparkling in her blue eyes. For the creator of the storm brings peace, quiet, and restoration to those who trust in him is unwavering. And I actually did a poem. My book has a lot of poems in it because I love to write poetry. And basically, at the beginning of each chapter, there is a poem. But this is the one that I dedicated to my parents that actually had adopted me. And it's called A Crazy Mixed Up Kid. I was born in a family where ties were not strong, and soon my parents did each other wrong. They loved each other, but for a while, but soon they both forgot how to smile. Life was so confusing for a crazy mixed up kid. So like time and a clock, their love soon passed. Dad and kids were alone too fast. No mother to give us love and care, no mother to take us to the fair. Life was so lonely for a crazy mixed up kid. Soon Daddy's wallet got very low, so for our own good, we kids would have to go to a better home, he said with tears, with love to grow on for many years. Life wasn't too easy for this crazy mixed up kid. So to a home full of lots of love, from grown-ups and kids to little white doves, but no real parents to love and cherish. In a place like this, your spirits could perish. Life didn't look any easier for this crazy mixed up kid. So they took me to a home full of fun, where love was there and room to run. To people who hungered for a child they could love, their prayer for a child was answered from God above. Would life be any easier for this crazy mixed up kid? So a man and a woman gave up their old life to raise someone else's child, a man who had lost his wife. If only I wouldn't have caused so much pain. I am sorry now and so ashamed. But life wasn't very easy for this crazy mixed up kid. So very much they have done for me, but I was blind and could not see. So to my parents now, whatever I do, remember I am thankful and will always love you, because you made life a bit easier for this crazy mixed up kid.
Can you tell us your whereabouts, or where can we find you in your book, website?
The whole book is about me, but I live in Laguna Beach right now, or not Laguna Beach, Laguna Woods. It's near Laguna Beach. And my book is available on Amazon, and I believe it's going to be in Barnes & Noble too, but it's just recently came out for the second time. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Diane Andrew. Now we're going to turn to children's book this time. She's no stranger to ReadersMagnet. She was with us yesterday during day one of LA Times. That's some of the books. She's known to everybody as Kathy, and she was born and raised in Southern California. She's now a retired registered nurse, a teacher, wife, mother, a grandmother, and a teller of stories. To tell us about her book, There Are Dragons in the Garden, ladies and gentlemen, Catherine Meyers Klein. A round of applause.
Good morning. As James introduced me, I'm Catherine Lynn Myers Cohen, but 99 times out of 100, I'm just plain Kathy. I've been known as Kathy since my grandfather dubbed me so 36 hours after I was born. My grandfather was also the inspiration for my book, There Are Dragons in the Garden. There Are Dragons in the Garden is the story of how love can conquer all. How the trust, the coming together without prejudice or pride, is the motivator and energy provider for good things to happen. This is the story of how the little flower snapdragons is around in the 21st and our century. It is the story of a wizard who wasn't born one, but that's the prequel. That's the caretaker of dragons. Became the caretaker of dragons, and how conflict between man and his beloved dragons caused him to make a very difficult decision on how he could protect his dragons. I'm going to be reading the opening of the first chapter to you. Back when the world was young, when myth and magic was shared in the land, sea, and air, with the animals known as man, there was a great magician or wizard by the name of Arthur. Arthur was tall by the standards of the day. He stood 6 feet 5 inches tall. He was thin, well built. That's from walking around his mountaintop home. He was thin yet well built. His hair was a white blonde and about shoulder length, with a small bald spot on the top of his head, which ran from the forehead to about mid-crown. His beard was also a white blonde and quite long. It was always getting tangled in the wraparound sash Arthur wore at his waist. His age, well, by the calendar of the present day, he was 365 years old, which is old for a man, but only middle-aged for a wizard. His face was well worn, with heavy lines and rough and weathered skin. His eyes were soft and gentle, and a green-blue in color. He wore an oversized cap to cover or hide his balding head. He also wore a floor-length robe with long flowing sleeves, fuller in the cuff than at the shoulders. The robe was tied at the waist with a sash and covered with a great number of symbols, shapes, whose meanings have long been forgotten. The wizard's job or purpose in life was but one thing: to watch and care for all the dragons in the world. It did not matter where the dragons called home, whether it was on land, sea, or in the air. It was Arthur's responsibility to see that their health, safety, and well-being. He did so love his job, as well as his dragons. Atop his mountain home was a cottage he lived and worked in. The cottage was made of wood, mud, and had a thatched roof with wildflowers blooming on top of it and mushrooms growing underneath the eaves. The cottage was quite large. It had 5 rooms. 3 of them had their own fireplaces. The bedroom was small, just enough room for a bed and an end table. The living room also served as the dining room and had a table with 2 chairs and an overstuffed chair in front of the fireplace. The kitchen had a large cooking fire, a large wooden block in the center of the room for the preparation of food. It also had an entire wall covered with pots, pans, cooking utensils, and earthenware jars filled with all manner of herbs, spices, grains, dried fruits, and nuts. The workroom was very, very large. for this was the room he used to treat and mend all his dragons' illness and wounds. Three of the walls were covered with boxes and other containers filled with herbs, tree bark, sap, leaves, grasses, roots, and bulbs, all used to make teas, soups, powders, and plasters. The medication and treatments to heal the wounds, lessen pain, cure infection, and on occasion treat an upset stomach after a dragon had eaten something that didn't agree with him. The fourth wall of the workroom could be completely opened to the outside for the treatment of the larger dragons. The last room was the most important of all the rooms, the library. This room contained volume after volume of the wizard's spells, formulas, and observations of his lifetime. Words of wisdom passed down from generation after generation of wizards. There were journals of myth and magic, books of law regarding nature and wizards, as well as tomes of alchemy. At the top of the Wizard's Mountain, there was a rather wide clearing that served as the Wizard's Observatory. Here Arthur had all manner of instruments capable of seeing near and far. This was the highest point in the known world, which made it possible for the wizard to watch over all of his dragons around him. Thank you. Chapters to my book, there are dragons in the garden, and a good introduction, at least I think, of the wizard himself. If you
Thank you so much, Catherine. This time we're gonna go to the sales industry and let's listen to, he's no stranger to Reader's Magnet. He was here yesterday. I was talking about his book. Very interesting book. Our next speaker lives in Silicon Valley. He'll be talking about sales and his background. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the author of the book, Bringing Down Sales Barriers and Challenges, Mr. Ramin.
Hello, James. Hello, folks. My name is Ramin Ilahi, and I'm the adjunct faculty with the UC Santa Cruz in Silicon Valley. And I'm very glad to be here to promote my book, Bringing Down Sales and Challenges. It is a lengthy title, but the main target audience for this book, which is a little bit different from the other genre that have been presented by the previous authors, is about the sales and marketing. And primarily from whoever wants to get into the sales industry, with a trying to sell a bubble gum to a Boeing aircraft. So this is not a textbook, but again, this is a years and years of shared experiences best practices by the veteran sellers, both in the technical and the business arena. And this is, as I mentioned, it's not a textbook, but it's a very good reference and ancillary reference book for to augment all those classical and classical teaching done in the classroom. This can be a good roadmap how to close more deals. Uh, any sales is a process. So there is a psychology of the sales that we all share, and also on the buyer's side, there is also a psychology. So this book basically talks about the 6, 7 phases of a sales process that can help anyone to be successful with finding customers, promoting their products and services, and eventually negotiate and close the deal. The two most salient chapters in this book is the art of presentation and negotiation. On the presentation, you have to get in front of the customer in order to present your ideas, to promote your solutions, and the payoff that you have as a result of selling your product. And at the end, everybody wants to have a discount. Everyone wants to have a lower prices. So one of the last chapters is how to negotiate and stand your ground so you can go ahead and close the deal at the full price. A lot of stuff in this book. I really invite you to view the teaser on YouTube, and then you can judge it for yourself whether it is a book for you. There's a good description of the book on the my publisher site, outskirt.press, and also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So I appreciate Reader's Magnet, James, for this opportunity, and hopefully I can see you at the book signing engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Anybody has a question to Mr. Ilahi?
Yeah, it would be later on today. I think that after the next office. Right. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Where can we find you? Website?
Again, on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, but primarily on my publisher's website, outskirt.press.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Ramin Ilahi.
Thank you.
Our next author just had his successful book signing a few minutes ago, and he's going to be talking about his two books, Endeavor One and Arc of the Apocalypse. Our author is an extreme world traveler who grew up in a household of rocket scientists. Growing up, he had a front row seat to many NASA and NOAA far-reaching accomplishments. Without further ado, I give you the author of the books, Arc of the Apocalypse and Endeavor One, Mr. Tobin Marks. A round of applause, please.
Thank you. Just to let you know, I was not one of the rocket scientists. Yeah, no. So, my name is Tobin Marks, and I have written actually two trilogies. The first one is Arc of the Apocalypse, of the Magellan 2 Chronicles, of which actually this is the only one that exists. I'm writing the other two. Endeavor's Run is book one of the Hope Prophecy trilogy. The two trilogies are linked. But I've been in editing now for years, literally. And when you're in editing, you drop everything and do that. So I'm working on book two of Arc, but I'm finishing up the developmental edit of book three on the Hope Prophecy trilogy. And once that's done, then I will concentrate on finishing the Magellan Truth. So just to raise their hands, anybody here like dragons? Okay, I got one person. All right, well, sorry. There are dragons in this. There be dragons, yes. It's a fun series. It's sci-fi fantasy. Basically, the story of Ark is global warming is rendering Earth uninhabitable, and we have to find a new planet to live on. There's a lot of political intrigue as the nations vie for the last remaining resources. But they do cooperate briefly and build mankind's first interstellar starship, fill it with colonists and send it to the closest M-class planet they can find. Unfortunately, when they get there, it's full of hostile aliens, dangerous reptiles like dinosaurs, and of course dragons. And they have to fight for survival. In Endeavor's run, takes place 1,000 years later. Earth has been destroyed by then, but has been rebuilt. Legends of Magellan 2, the starship that went to this planet, it's make-believe. It's like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. Nobody really believes it existed. But they get a message from this planet, and they send a starship to investigate. Well, the starship, it disappears without a trace. So they send a second starship, the Endeavor. And on board is the protagonist. And when he gets there, he has no clue who he really is. And his ancient ancestor was on the Magellan 2, the original starship, and had written that she was a seer. The family has got abilities. And she wrote a series of books, basically prophecies, the Hope prophecies. Her name is Hope. And he was in it, but he had no clue. So he gets there, and of course, basically, you have a dragon riding army fighting the lizard people. Because lizard people are always the bad guys. I mean, okay, you may not like dragons, but you know that lizard people are bad, right? They always are. So, anyway, does anybody have any questions? No questions? Okay, that's fine. I've got a publisher, is Dalton & Boyle. Find it on their website. Amazon, of course. Kobo, on my website, tobinmarks.com. And I'm on Twitter. I don't know, you look like you're all authors, correct? I got that right? No? Well, okay, but I think I'm batting about 80% here on this. Okay. So, the entire publishing industry lives on Twitter. So, at Tobin Marks, if you ever, want to follow me and, listen to really bad jokes, because I'm really good at that. So, anyway, thank you very much for listening. And I hope everybody has a very successful signing afternoon.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, and thank you so much, Tobin Marks, once again, the author of the book Ark of the Apocalypse and Endeavor One.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. You were signing there.
Our next speaker is no stranger to Reader's Magnet. She was here yesterday, and she was actually the first one to speak yesterday. So her book is The Struggle for Love, a love story through letters. Love stories abound, but this one paints a portrait of the struggle created by the Catholic Church when a priest feels the most natural of feelings, not towards his parishioner, but towards another human being. It pushes the boundaries of the relationship between them and the struggle to maintain the secrecy from a community who would have felt betrayed by their spiritual leader. To tell us more about her book, The Struggle for Love, let's hear it from Hilda Oralia Parra.
Thank you. First of all, James, you are losing your voice. Thanks to Reader's Magnet for having me here.
and giving me the opportunity to promote my book. I would like to start by reading the first two paragraphs of the book and hoping that it catches what the book is about. Okay? So this is how I start the book. As he got closer to joining Jesus, I told my sister Rosa, I only want his 8 children, all adults, and I to be present as he leaves us. She made sure to keep everyone out of the bedroom. Family and friends were in the living room, also waiting for that moment. We were playing music that reminded us of him. Be Not Afraid by John Michael Talbot started playing. Suddenly, his breathing started to slow down. I told one of my sons, Mijo, he's not breathing anymore. He said, yes, he is, Mom. It's just very shallow. But slowly, he began to stop breathing. Then suddenly, he breathed no more. The man that I loved for almost 50 years was gone. In May 1966, Tomas, at the age of 25, was ordained a Roman Catholic priest. In December of that same year, I turned 15. In June, Tomas was sent to St. Paul's Catholic Church in El Paso, Texas. This would be the first parish. Priests were usually given a parish to minister for a certain amount of time. This is where we met. That summer, I went to Mass on a Sunday morning. As everyone stood up to greet the priest as he walked down the aisle, I saw this young priest in his green chasuble. I remember thinking how young he was. He had dark black hair with a quirky, serious face. He was saying his first Mass at that parish. Immediately, I felt something special for him. His friendliness and charisma captivated me. We began a wonderful friendship. Our early years of friendship were full of appreciation for all the good he was doing at the church. I would send him cards to thank him and tell him I was praying for him and never failed to tell him that I loved him. I did this on a regular basis. This is the beginning of my book. I would only like to add to that when I left El Paso, we started writing to each other, and eventually we had over 300 letters that described our journey to finally getting together. This book is it's written with all the letters that we put together. I would like to show you a picture. I put them in binders, and this is how many letters I ended up with. So, yeah. But it was a long journey. Eventually, we did get together. We had 8 more children, so a total of 9 children. We were very happy. And I would like to share that journey with you guys by getting one of my books and seeing what it took for us to get together. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you, James. You can find me on Amazon. Just grab one of my cards or ask me for a card and scan it, and I will be on Amazon. The Struggle for Life by Hilda Oralia Parra. Thank you.
A round of applause, please, to Hilda Parra. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is a licensed clinical psychologist helping individuals in LA to improve their self-esteem and self-confidence in family, workplace, and social relationships. To tell us about her book, You'll Do Anything for Her, and You'll Do Anything for Him. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Maureen Hosier. A round of applause.
You'll do anything for her. My sister and I wrote them in 2017. We had our own little journey about giving ourselves up with each other in writing the book. So we learned a lot just doing the book together. We won 7 awards in the first publication, but nothing ever came of the book selling. So I'm back trying to get them published again, or have them published again with ReadersMagnet. and trying again to have them out there because it is about relationships and how some people go into a relationship giving a lot of love to the person that they're with, and then they come to find out they're not getting back what they give. And that's its own journey. Then is, and generally the person that gives up themselves, him or her, I see a lot of men, I see a lot of women that really focus their attentions on their partner.
I think this is.
They find that unconsciously they have chosen someone who's going to bring up childhood issues for them. And the childhood issues are, we all learn to relate in the relationships with our parents. That's where we start out. That's our foundation. And our foundation, depending upon what kind of relationship, I named them a one-person relationship is about one person in the relationship. A two-person relation is about both of us. With a lot of parents and children, parents learned in their relationship with their parents to focus on their parents, to focus on their parents' needs and feelings. So when the focus goes outside of someone and it has to go to another, then these are the two people I'm talking about who are now in their own relationship, with one needing the focus, the other one focusing on. Does it make sense? Okay, and it's an unconscious journey. If you can get that it's a journey. Our relationships, I believe, are opportunities to grow. They provide so many experiences, so many times when we're in that in it moment. You know what the in it moment might be? Doesn't feel good. I want what I want. They want what they want. And we're not solving it. We're just arguing and fighting and blaming, and we're doing all of that. Those are emotionally immature behaviors. We haven't had the experience with a parent of how to be listened to, with a parent who needs the focus of the child. We haven't had the experience that children haven't had the experience, some of us, to have us inside of us, rather than to have, for me, my mother inside of me. I am not blaming my mother. I'm not blaming my father. My father focused on my mother totally. He gave up himself for her. My mother was the rock of the foundation of the family. She was a wonderful woman, but her focus went outside to other people. And so she needed things to be her way in parent-child relationship, so it was an authoritarian relationship. That wasn't good for me as the child. I went into young adulthood having no idea who I was at all. So then I've spent the next however many years learning to take care of myself. I didn't learn how to take care of myself in my relationship with my parents. And that's where it needed to be learned. So I try to explain all that in what's in these two books. It's very simple, very easy to read. And I get a lot of reviews that say, yep, I resonate with that. I know how to give myself up. I know how to do that. What do you do when you don't? Then you find out whether or not your partner has the capacity. When you begin to own your own genuine and authentic feelings, you own yourself. And instead of fighting about it, then you are able, hopefully, to have a conversation about it. But that's my next book. It's about that in it moment and how I think we all need to figure out how to get that stopped, to listen. You know, in that moment, in it moment, we're both screaming to be heard. We just want to be heard. That's all we want. We just want to be heard, received, taken in, valued, understood. And we don't know how to get out of that moment. So the next book is on that moment and how to get out of that. And it's easy once you recognize you're in that moment. Oh, this isn't working for us. And both partners are on board with that. And both partners then, okay, let's handle this differently. I will listen. And then the other partner listens. And then we don't blame each other. We only talk about ourselves. It's real simple. Real simple to not fuel that in it moment. These two are the foundation for the next one that's coming. I don't know when the last author said he'd been editing for years. That's what I feel like too. I think it's only been a year, but it's torture. So anyway, any questions, any thoughts?
Do you have any website where we can find you?
It's Maureen Hosier, PhD.com. It's Maureen Hosier, PhD.com. Can you tell, like, this is how I work? Okay. Or Maureen Hosier. Just Maureen goes in and it'll come up. The information will come up. Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. I give you Dr. Maureen Hosier, author of the book You'll Do Anything for Her and You'll Do Anything for Him.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, my first opportunity to try to do this.
Oh, congratulations. Thank you so much, Dr. Maureen. Our next author is the author of the book Disempower the Disappointment. She was raised in New York, surrounded by the love of family, and she moved to Georgia over a decade ago, where she has built strong roots in faith and family. Rizerma is a certified physician associate and finds great joy and purpose to helping others. She is also a podcaster of the Palm Tree Podcast, where she journeys through setbacks and empowers listeners with practical tips and advice on how to handle life's storms in a healthy way. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of the book Disempower the Disappointment, I give you Rizerma McCorney.
Thank you. First, I would like to start with an excerpt from my book with a quote. A human being can survive almost anything as long as she sees the end in sight. But depression is so insidious and it can compound daily that it's impossible to ever see the end. I had to remind myself that I was a fighter. When necessary, I would fight and fight even when I had no air left in my lungs and I felt like I was on my last heartbeat. However, at this moment, I was tapped out. I saw my reality and I had no fight left in me. With one punch of layoff, I went down. I got back up for a moment, and the girls' trip and family visit for the holidays helped me a lot. During that time, my mind was available to escape my known reality. Then I returned to the realness of my life. The job hunting punch, the bills punch, the unknowns super uppercut, the furlough roundhouse kick. I saw no end in sight. I was totally knocked out. TKO. Hi, I'm Roseanne McCorney, the author of Disempowered to Disappointment. This shows my journey from going from rejected to encouraged. If you're feeling rejected, this book is for you to encourage you. If you know of anybody who needs encouragement, this book is for them as well. If you are a friend who doesn't know how to encourage a friend, this book will help you how to be that friend for someone who needs encouragement. Also, with this book, it's very important that you learn how to process mental health because that's a rampant this day and age. I wrote this book mainly to say, me too. I've been through where you are with sad thoughts, with depressed thoughts, with even suicidal thoughts because of a life disappointment. But this is the end result when you become resilient, where you say, disappointment, I am empowered to knock you out. Three main things I would like to cite with this book is that it gives encouragement. It also has you look at a disappointment as something to empower you, as a divine appointment. It's not used to break you down, but to build you up. Any questions? You could find me at roadtoresilient.com, also on Instagram at Rosie Resilient, and my podcast, which is the Palm Tree Podcast. I also have some books available and t-shirts, Ben the Unbreakable, for purchase, as well as book signing for the first 5 people who come to the table at booth 225. Any other questions? So please look for my book. The second book will be coming out November 2023, which goes more in depth of how to become resilient. And also, my Instagram is Rosie Resilient, and the Palm Tree Podcast, Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any other questions?
I think you're great, and you pick yourself up to turn around and still hold your own, and still write a book, and still can teach others. So you keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I give you once again Roseanne McCorney, Disempowered the Disappointment. Our next author is going to be doing his book signing in the next few minutes, and definitely he'll be inviting everybody. He is the author of the book 70 Years of God's Miracles. Our author is born during World War II in rural Nebraska and moved to San Jose, California. To start, God woke him over 3 years ago at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 nights in a row, and asked him to write a book. He's going to share it with us and the inspiration of writing this wonderful 70 Years of God's Miracles. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Buzz or Basil Howell. A round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really Basil Buzz Howell. You probably know why I chose Buzz over Basil. Basically, I'm from Nebraska originally, but I was 2 years old. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm from Nebraska originally. We moved when I was 2 years old to San Jose, California, when they had a whole bunch of prune trees, apricot trees, and all kinds of fruit. Now it's all Silicon Valley. But so I've had a long life. I'll be going on 81 in August. 56 years of marriage to my lovely wife Esperanza, who's over there. And basically, God woke me up 3 years ago at 3 in the morning and said, I want you to write a book. One of these, 3 in the morning, waking me up and I got to write a book. I said, no way, Jose. And so the next night, exactly 3 in the morning, he yells, you are going to write the book. Yes, sir. I don't know how to write a book. I mean, seriously, I was in the car business 45 years. I'm used to selling cars, managing customers, managing salesmen, and working with customers and selling cars. So it took me a while. It took me over a year to write the book. And basically, I didn't know I really had that many miracles until I wrote the book. And it started when I was 7 years old. And my dad had come back from World War II, pretty messed up, like a lot of people were in those days.
and he was beating my mom. And when I tried and interfere at 7 years old, guess who else got beat up? And so I came within a few inches of my life, and my wife or my mom finally said, "That's it, you're out of here." And so that's how the first miracle starts in the book. But there's just countless miracles of being 45 years in the car business and surviving, being in it that long and actually coming out alive. Kind of kidding there. But anyway, I think you'll enjoy the book. It's been life-changing for my wife and I to write. I'm sorry. Pardon me? Name of the book. 70 Years of God's Miracles. And like I say, the start when I was 7. So basically, God's done some tremendous things in our lives over the time my wife first came to know Jesus Christ about 43 years ago. And I came to the Lord about a year and a half after her constant praying. I mean, she prayed and prayed and prayed to the point that I was out of it. I got to the point where I gave up and basically asked Jesus Christ into my life in a Catholic church, which we were going to at the time. And I still feel sorry for the priest that had to hear all those act of contritions and all those prayers, all the things that's wrong with your life, because I spent 15 minutes in confession. And I finally told the priest, I now want to accept Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. And everything changed once I did that. And we devoted the last 40 or 40 some years to working with great people that help them come to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And that's why I call it 7 Years of Miracles, because there's many, many more miracles to read about too. Anyway, is it okay?
Did you go to heaven?
Oh, that first chapter, I forgot about heaven. I didn't know, I think I covered the part of it where God told me to write the book, but the first chapter, the Lord insisted it be about heaven. A lot of people will write about heaven, but it's kind of later in the book. But heaven is a place that everybody wants to go. I don't care if you're a heathen or Christian or Jew or whatever, you want to go to heaven. And God just is unbelievable in how he has heaven running up there. I mean, the minute you go, you're like one of these. You just can't believe what you're seeing. The sights and sounds are so unbelievable. The magnificent singing that's going on, the camaraderie that goes on. And so I tried the best I could on chapter 1 to describe what heaven is like and going to heaven. And that's something that's going to always be dear to my heart, real dear to my heart.
Basil, can you invite everyone to be at your book signing?
Yeah, I'm signing books over there. I brought about 50 books with me. So you're welcome to the book, and appreciate you inviting us to the fair here.
Thank you. Where can we find it? Do you have a website? Or how can we order or purchase a copy of your book?
We have, Amazon and Books, Barnes and Noble. We're on there. We've been there for about a year or so.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you once again Mr. Basil Howell.
Thank you very much.
We're down to the last few authors before we take our lunch break, and we're going to resume at 1 p.m. But in the meantime, let's hear to another speaker who wrote the book Freedom Lost. Our author of Freedom Lost was raised in a military family, and his father was career Army. So Mark traveled quite a bit from Georgia to Chicago and much of Western Europe. His family finally settled in Sierra Vista, Arizona, in southwestern Arizona. His book, having won the U.S. presidency in a 3-party run, Lawrence Lording has suspended the Constitution and eliminated Congress. To tell us more about the book Freedom Lost, let's give it up for Mark Handy.
Thank you. This venue, great. To walk around and see books that are being published. How many folks have traveled outside of the United States? Okay. So you can hopefully appreciate what we have here. So the way this book starts, blood pounding in his temples, Mace Wallace tried not to look at the police car as it passed. Despite the fear of the hunted falling down his back, he forced a slight smile to his face. The cruiser continued without any signs that he'd been recognized, signs which would have been unmistakable, to be sure. People wanted by the federal government always caused a stir when found out. Looking around, but not focusing on anything, but at the same time seeing everything, Mace walked with a casual stride to the L station where he would make his rendezvous. A bump and a bustle on the local 415, and he would have the info for the next resistance meeting. He leaned against the wall, opened his newspaper, waiting for the train, the crowd, and one special passenger. Over the top of the paper, Mace scanned the people, paused in their journeys to or from someplace else in Chicago. All eyes were furtive, glancing, not lingering or making direct contact. Even the few who traveled with friends talked in hushed voices and ignored all others. Fear seemed to grip each person, fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, just seeming to be wrong. That's the atmosphere of America in this book. What would happen if the Constitution was gone and you couldn't gather in public places like this? You didn't have the right to free speech. In this book, and it's a speculative fiction, thank God. A president gets in and is able to manipulate things where he is able to enact martial law through FEMA, suspends the Constitution, which is in FEMA, folks. It's a scary thing. They can create martial law, and this book is not political in any way. There are no political parties mentioned, because in my view, anybody, either side of the fence could do something like this. This is about how the American people would react. What would you do if somebody took this away from you? The ability to walk around freely and speak your mind. So that's basically what it is. No political aspirations. Got to mute my phone. But yeah, it starts in Arizona. That's where my roots are now, and it goes to Chicago because I went to high school there, and then it comes back to Arizona. It gets around the country, but it's people's reactions, the way people react to it, what they're willing to do to get rid of the guy in the White House that's messed everything up and get it back to the way it is. So take a look at it. You'll find it interesting. It's fast-paced. I don't dwell on descriptive, flowery, descriptive programs. It's fast, keeps you interested. And the second book picks up where the first one left off, and it'll end up everything. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to be hanging around if anybody's got any questions, or I do have a couple books if you're interested. Freedom Lost.
Where can we find you in your book? Do you have a website?
I have a website, shadowrider.com. I will be here signing books for anybody that be interested.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the author of the book Freedom Lost, Mark Handy. Thank you. Now, our next speaker was born from parents from Russia, and they came to America in 1907 and got married in South Dakota and became part of the Homestead Act with a total of 15 sons and daughters. His book, Why? Jesus, do you consider our church lukewarm? For the writing of this book is exciting to him of us being able to prepare for Jesus' return. And as the scriptures say, to watch and pray means that Jesus really would like to have us come with him on his return to the Father's house in heaven. To tell us more about why, Jesus, do you consider our church lukewarm? Ladies and gentlemen, the author, Arthur Bethler. A round of applause.
Well, first I want to say thank you to ReadersMagnet for advertising the book. But what started this whole thing was about 15 years ago. I spent about 2 months writing, and I put hundreds of pages, and I didn't really have a plan on what the topic would be. I just went to the scripture and started writing about the Old Testament, and then I shelved it. That's like 15 years ago. And then 4 years ago, I just had this gut feeling that I should write a book. And so I started writing. And so I think I did one page and I shelved it. And then my sister came to me and says, there's a prophet coming to my church and he's going to preach and I want you to come. I said, oh, okay. So I went and so halfway through his sermon, he walked up to me and said I had a vision. I saw a book with nothing on it, and then I saw a book full of words. So he said, I think Jesus wants you to write a book. Well, I already knew that. So I went home, wrote 3 more pages, and I shelved it because I really didn't have a plan on what the subject should be. So I had a kind of an idea, like the top, the journey of Jesus through the Bible. That was one of the thoughts in my head. So what happened was a month later, it was around midnight, and I had a knock at the door, really loud, at my bedroom door, and it woke me up, and I looked around and no one was there. My wife was asleep, so I went back to sleep, and I had another hard knock. It woke me up, and so I looked around, and the Lord Jesus spoke to me like you would talk to me, out loud, and said, I want you to write the book today. So I spent almost 2.5 years, about 4 to 6 to 7 hours a day. It was really the most emotional time of my life because I didn't do any physical exercise. I was stressed out because I didn't know what to write, so I just said, Lord, okay, I'm just going to get my pencil and my paper, and I just let the words start coming. And so I wrote the whole book, and when I finished it, and it was called The Journey of Jesus Through the Bible. And after I finished it, the Lord began to speak to my heart and said, no, I want you to write a book on the church. So I wrote this one here called Jesus, Do You Consider a Church Lukewarm? Well, I knew there were hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of churches throughout the United States that have totally shut down. Even my brother in Nebraska says, my Assembly of God church is totally shut down. I mean, it's happening all over the United States. And so I thought, wow, Lord. But then when I started writing it, he began to show me that the way the church is being operated today is nothing like what was the time of Apostle Paul. The Lord began to speak to my heart, says, if you don't have the fivefold ministry in each congregation, the prophets, the apostles, the evangelist, the teacher, and the pastor, it's not a church. It's not an anointed church from the Holy Spirit. And if you don't have the 9 gifts in operation, which is the gift of healing and tongues and interpretation and prophecy, all those 9 gifts, if they weren't in operation in each congregation, that is not a church. Because that's the Holy Spirit is standing outside the door, standing outside the door. He's in your heart, but when it comes to it's an assembly, but it's not a church. Like he said, I told Peter, I said, you're the rock. You know, that's where the church began. You know, because he was filled with the Holy Spirit, and he began to operate in the power of the Holy Spirit. So because of that, I started writing the whole thing out. And in my book, I'm telling all the congregations throughout the world, there's the word evangelist or the word missionary is not mentioned in the Bible, because every church doesn't need a missionary, because all they need is an evangelist, and they'll bring an evangelist of God, and the pastor is not. The pastor is a shepherd. And the Lord began to bring me the verses in the Old Testament of King David. He says, that's truly a shepherd. King David was truly a shepherd because he made sure that he destroyed the lion and the bear to protect the sheep. And that's what he did. He actually killed them. So I began to write this in my book. I'm saying that if they would do what Paul did, explaining what a church is, it wouldn't take you long that your church is going to double in size or more. And so, but it goes into a lot of different details about the book. And so he's saying that through this, if they would go back to the structure, he says, the wrath of God will not come to the world. But if the church, the pastors don't begin to listen to the Holy Spirit, he says, the church, the world's going to go through hard tribulation because we're not listening to what the Holy Spirit's saying to the church. So that's what this whole thing is about. I mean, I can think that maybe some of the pastors will run me out of town because I'm really hard on when I'm writing about this. But so thank you very much for letting me share about the book. But it's on any place you can get it, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any of them. But thank you again, ReadersMagnet, for advertising. And TBN, when they first started to write the book or check my book, I was kind of flattered because they said, "Hey, I consider you a scholar." I said, "Wait a minute, I've never written a book." Never written a book before, but I don't know what this is going to take us, in this journey. But I know it's something's going to happen.
Amen.
This gut feeling, something's going to happen.
Amen.
Well, thank you very much again, ReadersMagnet.
Thank you so much. Once again, Arthur Bethler. Our next speaker grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, and London, England. Irene has always been passionate about writing and has kept many journals. In addition, she has written many teaching brochures and attended many speaking events. Her first two books, Hype and Vital Signs, are not for sale, but are gifts for the underprivileged communities that the Santarina Foundation visits. To talk about her book, Evolving Through the Process, ladies and gentlemen, Irene Ilahi.
Thank you, James. So I was here yesterday, and today is my second day to discuss my book. The one thing I'll say is that my book is real. It's about real life events, about evolving. It's serious yet funny. It reminds us that we should never take life so seriously because at the end of life, it's all about, having fun. That is what life is about, having fun. So I'm going to read something about my book. My book is 96 short stories, and each story is complete with a quote, usually a quote from me or from someone else, and then all the affirmations are my affirmations. My book talks about inspiration. We get inspiration everywhere. We don't need to be in a building or in a particular place to get inspiration. My book is about love, loving yourself. It talks about accepting yourself 100% in a perfectly imperfect world. So I'll read story 11. It says, you can't schedule intuition and you can't schedule inspiration. Irene Warabon. Our society runs on schedules. We wake up at a specific time, eat at a particular time, go to work at an exact time, and we may go to the gym at a certain time. These schedules keep us organized. When I was in the Christian church, we were scheduled. The church started at a specific time and ended at a specific time. However, we also had a scheduled time for anointing and receiving inspiration from God or the Holy Spirit. What exactly did this mean? In my journey, I have experienced that we can receive inspiration from anywhere and from anyone. We cannot schedule a day and time for inspiration. Inspiration is all around us. I can look out in my backyard and get inspired by my flowers. I can look at a child laughing and be inspired. I can read a book and be inspired. In my experience, there hasn't been a time where I thought, today at 6 p.m. in my bedroom, I will get the correct intuition or I will get the right inspiration to perform a task. You cannot separate intuition from inspiration, nor can they be scheduled. I encourage everyone to flow with love of inspiration and let it spring from your interactions as you go about your day. My affirmation: I enjoy the world I live in, and my outlook on this beautiful world inspires me. So I wrote this book because I have been around a lot of people from different parts of the world, different religions, different groups. And I found out that the one constant for people is love. So it doesn't matter what religion a person belongs to, what they practice. When someone has love in their heart, loving other people without the fear of hell or the benefit of heaven to do the right thing, this world will be a better place. But then many people, get so serious and they want to put people in categories. But I say this: as you go about your life with people from all walks of life, people from all races, denominations, continents, that constant that keeps us connected is love. And when one shows love to another, you'll find out that we become more inclusive because we're all connected. Exclusivity is what separates us. And that's where it gets so serious. Oh, you're not part of us, but we're all connected. The human race is all connected. And so, my 96 short stories, they're very short, about my life evolving through my process of life, talks about my different experiences and how, after everything, I realized the common denominator in this life is love. Love everyone. Love everyone. And you'll find out that life just flows. Thank you for listening.
Anybody who has a question
Oh,
for Irene?
I almost forgot. So you can find my book on my website. It's Irene's Words with an E, ireneswords.com. I'm also on Amazon, and next month I will be on Audible. I'm auditioning the voice for my book. You can find me there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Such a blessing to have you here. Our next speaker, we're down to the last few before we take our lunch break. Our last speaker, not last speaker, but our speaker, like Irene, she's also from outside of America, from Thailand to be very specific. And her nickname is Moo, and originally from Thailand and came to the US in 96. And over the past 24 years, she has owned and operated several businesses in the Orlando area. Her book, From Religious to Relationship, follows NASA porn, Wotitanarut, from Thailand to the US, and from Thai Buddhism to Christianity. It provides an overview of Thai culture and religion, details her journey to the US to escape a broken heart, establishing several businesses with the goal of bringing her family to the US and her search for the one true God. To tell us more about From Religious to Relationship, the author herself, Napasorn.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Um, yeah, first, I want to say thank you to ReaderMagnet that give me the chance to speak. So, so my name is Napasorn Muti Thanarat, and my nickname is Moo. So you can call me Moo because it's a long name, right? So it's hard to remember. So I came here with broken heart. But now my heart is not broken anymore. So I got my fiance with me. Yeah, praise God. So yeah, God is so good. So my book wrote about my life, that how I met Jesus 9 years ago. So I am still consider myself that I'm still baby Christian. Still feel a little lack of confidence to share God love in the world. But like many of us that I hear, like many authors said that they never feel like they going to write a book. That's me too. That I never thought that I'm going to write a book. So and he just like tell me to write a book and give me like confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. So now this is my first book. So you know that Thailand has so many gods, and my heart just long for Thailand because I speak Thai, and I just my heart is long for everyone that want to know the truth, purpose in their life, because I'm walk with him 9 years now, so I know that he wants everyone to come to know him, and it's only us. It's a choice that we make, but I'm here to share the love of him, that he wants everyone to come to know him, and every situation in our life. Like I have the title that how a personal relationship with God help you in this chaotic world. So I think that you know every situation in our life, just come to know him, just come to ask him, and he will answer to us. So thank you so much, Reader Magnet, for me to be here and order to promote my book. And I'm going to Hong Kong with you too. So so if anyone would like to support me, because I am not just doing only book. So my heart is long for like ministry. So I'm building God Kingdom, so ministry. So if everyone would like to support, so they can go to my own website, um, fathersbusinesspublishing.com. And I also have the podcast. So one is in English right now and three Thai. So if everyone know Thai people, just invite them to listen. That would be awesome. And pray for me. Pray for people that going to come to know the truth. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I appreciate you.
Like, can we find you like website or Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and I republish with Reader Magnet as well. So it's coming next month.
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Napasorn.
Thank you. All right.
Our next speaker is an artist, a mother, a wife, a daughter, and an immigrant from Colombia, South America. She has completed a bachelor's degree in child psychology from George Washington University and master's in engaged humanities and the creative life with emphasis in depth psychology from Pacifica Graduate Institute, to talk about a birth story, The Little Girl in the Red Boots. Ladies and gentlemen, Ximena Pearson.
Hi. Well, thank you. I wasn't really prepared to be here. I wasn't going to come. Um, so I'm a little nervous. So this is my kind of second book that I have self-published. Um, and the reason why I decided to publish this book is to bring awareness of not being defined by our birth, either birth wound or a birth defect. We should not let that define who we are. So part of the process of writing this book was I did it during school. I discovered that the only way that I was going to embrace my birth scar was to write about it. And I did it in such a way that was more symbolic and to bring my own poetry. And I also worked with my mom in her doing the images for the book. So actually, so this is called the Achilles splash. And I'm just going to read to you what the short poem is called. The Achilles Flash. Black shadows descend as the midnight hour strikes. The Achilles Flash. So, as you all know, the myth of Achilles, he was killed by a arrow, and it punctured his Achilles heel. So, in my own life, I have had to deal with my leg is shorter than the other leg. I've had to limp throughout my life. So, I've been able to just work with poetry and art in my own wounding, so to speak. So, this is why I wanted to bring this book to everybody. That's it.
If you have questions, ask questions.
Oh, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Sure, of course. So my red boots, it was inspired by a pair of red boots that I wore as a child. To cover, but they also became structure. They gave me grounding because they were orthopedic shoes, and that's all I wore for the first 11 years of my life. Yes. So it's a way of using symbolic language to express our own birth stories, and that is something that I hope I can work with other people, about them embracing their own birth wounds or birth defects. So, thank you.
Where can we find you? Like websites?
You can find me. My website is Ximena Pearson. That's Ximena Pearson, PEARSON.com. I offer individual sessions with clients. I also offer workshops, creative workshops. Poetry is my creative medium, but I also work with other creative art therapy, collage making, and things like that. So this. I live in Los Angeles, and I currently am pursuing my second master's and PhD degree at Pacifica Graduate Institute in Jungian and Archetypal Studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Ximena Pearson. I think that concludes our morning session. We will resume at 1 in the afternoon with several more authors who are going to talk about their very inspiring books. Again, Reader's Magnet is live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We'll see you again at 1 p.m.
Thank you.